Hello, welcome to another edition of Small Caps. I'm Peter Capsanis. Well, Perth-based explorer Elevate Uranium has been busy carrying out a number of drilling programs across its international portfolio, Namibia, the Northern Territory, and Western Australia. Joining me to tell us more from Elevate, that's ASX code EL8, is Murray Hill, the company's managing director. Murray, good to chat to you again.
Yeah, you too, Peter. Good to see you on a beautiful, wet winter's day in Perth.
Yeah, absolutely cold and wet, that's for sure. Look, Murray, let's do a quick recap. You're a uranium explorer. What's the mission and purpose for Elevate?
But what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a resource base to feed into the nuclear demand in the future. Uranium is the fuel for nuclear, as we talked about off air, and we need a lot of uranium to feed that, especially increasing demand for nuclear. So what we're doing is we're an exploration company. We're trying to build a resource base and then increase that resource base to in confidence level to from inferred to indicated, and then move down the development path. So ultimately, we want to develop projects both in Namibia and Australia. And we've got an upgrade process we developed in-house, which lowers the cost base significantly by around 50% for developing these style of projects. So that separates us from our peers and puts us in a position where we can develop these projects at a lower cost than our peers. But when you look in Namibia, we've been there for quite a while. I've been at the helm for 12 years. We discovered our projects in the Koppies area. Hence, we're a step behind our peers who bought their projects that were previously discovered by General Mining. So we're certainly in a good position. We've got a large land base in Namibia, and we're exploring successfully.
Okay, well, look, you've just released some recent or some results from a recent drilling program over in Namibia. Can you talk us through it, and can you expand what that means for the journey ahead?
Yeah, it's exciting results in amongst it. We're drilling at Hirabeb. We're drilling it, and when you look at the map, it looks like a small area, but it's 4.5 kilometres long where we're drilling at the moment, and we're drilling it out to a sort of 100 metre by 100 metre drill pattern, and we're getting sort of some intersections. Like what was the announcement was, 6 metres at 797 ppm from 4.5 metres, so very close to surface, including 2 metres at 1,482 ppm. So that's just an example of what we're hitting. Some high grades in amongst it, but very, very shallow mineralisation. So what we're working towards is we want to get a maiden resource on the Hirabeb prospect within this calendar year, and that's really where we're aiming for this project. But certainly some standout intersections that we're quite excited about.
Yeah, okay. So they are positive. So how do they shape your next steps? Because we should probably take a step back. It's part of what's called the greater Koppies project area. What kind of overall project size are we talking about there in Namibia?
So just going to the drilling at the moment, we thought we were initially constrained to a paleo channel. We're not. We're finding mineralisation outside the paleo channel. So of the table we put in our announcement this morning, there was a number of intersections, and 38% or roughly 40% of them were of the high grade, the 1,000 ppm stuff, were outside the paleo channel, inside this weathered basement. It's still the same depth, but it's alongside the paleo channel. So what that means is that now we're no longer constrained to the paleo channel, and we've got open mineralisation. So that means that we're more than likely going to find some more mineralisation than we currently thought we would. So that really changes our whole focus on these paleo channel systems and just moving outside of them. So that gives a great opportunity for us to grow. The proximity to Koppies, as you point out, Koppies is 12 kilometres away from tenement boundaries, and Koppies resource is 20 kilometres long. So when you consider you're 12 kilometres away from 20 kilometres, it's really becoming part of the Koppies project. So we knew when we discovered Koppies, Hirabeb, and even Namib 4 in this same area, we thought we sort of were trying to work out how we could link them all, and we believed internally that we needed about a 30 million pound minimum size resource to have a standalone operation where you're producing yellowcake. Koppies has gone beyond that, but initially in the paleo channel it was 20 million pound. And we found the rest of it outside the paleo channel. So it's now, 58 million pound, and we're going, okay, that is now the centre of gravity. So Hirabeb sort of becomes a satellite to Koppies, unless Hirabeb gets to well in excess of 60 million pound. Maybe it's a standalone project itself. But realistically, we always thought they'd be together, and this is just now beginning an opportunity to let everybody know that that's what we've been thinking.
Okay, so do you when will you know as to when they might become uh, a joint force or a separate project? Too early days, I suppose, right now.
Oh, look, I think we can say at this stage they're going to be joint. Even if it gets to a large size, I think the economies of scale of building one refinery for the area is the sensible approach. So, irrespective of how big Hirabeb and say Namib 4 get and others in the area, then I think you'll only have one refinery. We're not going to go and build a refinery at Hirabeb, refinery at Koppies. So the Koppies project, as we're calling it, which encompasses Hirabeb, Namib 4 and others, I think we'll just have one refinery on it. It may have a few different processing plants, upgrade processing plants, producing concentrate, taking it into a central leach refinery, but I think just one refinery.
All right, so buoyed by today's announcement and great hits and results from Hirabeb. So, what's the next steps now for one, the greater Koppies project area, and for Hirabeb?
Well, Hirabeb, we want to get a maiden resource on that. So we're working towards that this calendar year. The Koppies area, we're working now on drilling. We've got 4 rigs working in this area, drilling in excess of 100 holes a week. So there's a lot of holes to drill, but it's large areas to drill. So we're looking at getting a maiden indicated resource. So we've got an inferred resource at Koppies project. We now want to get that into the indicated status to give a greater confidence level. So, and also we're doing some work. I could take you to Namibia 4 and show you carnotite, the uranium mineral sitting on surface. Very exciting, but does a bit of carnotite on surface make a deposit? I don't know. So we've got a lot of work to do in that respect. We're building our Namibian team up. We've got 5 geologists we've put on in the last 3 months. And what they're doing is they're boots on the ground. We're getting them out on site because we've got, vast area, largest tenement position in Namibia. Hirabeb prospect is 40 kilometres basically from east west. It's a large area. So we want to get out there and have an understanding of it. Maybe there's some new discovery to make in this area, but certainly building our resource base and increasing the confidence level.
That drilling project in the Koppies in the greater project area, Murray, how is there a timeline on that as to how long it's going to be running for?
Yeah, look, we want to get the indicated resource out this year as well. So we're working on that. There's a lot of drilling to do, and we're working through that now. So, yeah, look, probably similar timing of Hirabeb initial maiden resource and Koppies indicated resource. Sorry.
And if there's any prospect of mine life at some point, Murray, where are you located? Where the project's located? Are they close to rail, road, ports? Are they logistically, connected?
Yeah, look, we're only 75 kilometres to the port of Walvis Bay, which services a lot of the inland countries. So Zambian copper comes through and out the port of any uranium produced in all Namibian uranium goes out through that port. Also, we're only 70 k's from the international airport of Walvis Bay. There's a huge population base in Walvis Bay and Swakopmund, which we draw upon. Our office is in Swakopmund. There's a couple of roads that go. One goes north of our projects, just north of Koppies tenement, and the other one comes straight through the middle of Hirabeb. They're both good roads. The government have been upgrading them recently. When I was over there in April, excellent roads. I mean, better than what we've got over here. So we're close to those. There's a power line goes through the Koppies tenement. All the infrastructure's there. We've got neighbours 25 kilometres away, which is Paladin's Langer Heinrich operation. They've been operating since 2008, apart from the period of time where they were in care and maintenance, but all the infrastructure's in place. It's a good spot to be in Namibia. Fantastic with infrastructure-wise.
All right. Well, look, just changing tack slightly, you would have heard this week that Kazatomprom, the world's largest uranium miner, has cut its production guidance for 2025 by 5,000 tonnes due to short supply and uncertainties with its sulfuric acid supply, rather, and the related construction delays to new projects. So that's certainly buoyed the market. What impact does that have, if any, on Elevate going forward?
Well, you look at it, a couple of months ago, a month ago, they said their forecast was going to go up by a couple of £1 million. and most of us dropped by about 40% our share price on the back
Right.
of the market. The investors said, well, hang on, there's too much uranium. And now they come out and say a month later and say, oh, look, now we're down by 17%. And, we saw a jump in our price yesterday, but nowhere near the drop of 40%. We haven't made that up. So I see it that Kazakhstan has always been, people have always said they're just going to turn the tap on and produce enough uranium to bridge the gap in terms of shortage we've got. Well, it's now coming to roost that they can't. They can't turn the tap on. Acid consumption is a problem. Their resources are getting, their resources are finite, funnily enough, and they're getting towards the end of their life, some of them. So they're not going to be able to turn the tap on. So the supply demand issue we're seeing is going to be bigger than the forecast is. And also, when you put a supply demand curve out, people put out this, see a lot of graphs around. It's never, it's the supplies, well, if they get going. Well, we're now seeing that, these projects are harder to get off the ground. It's not just uranium. You saw in New South Wales, a large project, the federal ministers just went, no, you're not going to do it, even though it's got all the approvals. So there's a risk that mining projects just don't get off the ground. And so probably more risk here than in Namibia, possibly. So, it is going to impact that supply demand. And I think the demand will continue because we're seeing a lot of talk about nuclear. All the countries, the COP20, all of them except Australia, a lot of countries are coming out and say we're going to triple our nuclear, whereas we're not quite as smart here. So you're going to see more demand, but projects taking longer to get off the ground and produce, and Kazakhstan not being able to turn on the tap like people think they're going to be. So that gap between supply and demand is just going to grow and grow. Now, what does that mean? That means that to incentivize new production, the uranium price has got to go up. Now it's up at $80 a pound now, but it's going to have to be in excess of 100, 150 in my view, and it will go over 200 at some stage because nuclear utilities are going to realize there's not enough uranium out there. So they're going to be jumping over themselves to buy uranium because the worst thing they can do is run out of uranium to feed their nuclear reactors. So I think we're going to see a very high price, and I think it's going to be needed to incentivize production. And a high price is all good for us. Access to capital becomes a bit easier, and we'll also, we'll move down this production path for our projects in Namibia, and while the uranium price is sitting at a very high level.
Well, you've opened up the dialogue, the discussion on this point. I'll ask another question just in relation to this. Given that Australia has got an abundance of uranium, we know the Olympic Dam in South Australia, we know there's 25 known uranium sites in Western Australia where obviously uranium mining isn't allowed at the moment. So with all this talk about nuclear energy by the federal opposition, what scope, or rather, what do you think from an industry perspective should state and federal governments be looking at? Is it worthwhile having the conversation and exploring the opportunity to perhaps open up that ban on uranium mining here in WA? Obviously, it would be of benefit to you given you've got a few WA assets, but from a broader perspective and given that potential shortage you touched on, is Australia doing itself a disservice at the moment?
Absolutely doing itself a disservice. We should be opening up uranium mining. The revenue coming from mining in this country is essential. We're killing the sheep industry by banning live exports. All that does is they'll go and buy sheep from another country. So, if we're not producing uranium here, they'll go and buy it from somewhere else. So we're the ones that are suffering in Australia by these ridiculous policies that the current Labor government have, both at state level in Western Australia and at federal level. It's hamstrung the country, and we're starting to look like fools, basically, is my view. And we need to open up. So we don't just open it up and say you can mine anywhere. There's steps you need to go through to make sure you get, meet environmental criteria and so forth. But certainly getting mining and uranium mining on the radar is very important for the future. The world needs uranium, and if you're not going to get from Australia, this is going to go somewhere else. I mean, we're in Namibia. There's far more incentive to explore for us in Namibia than is in Australia, both from a legal perspective in terms of ridiculous laws, but also the cost of exploration in Namibia is significantly less. We don't have the red tape that we're here. We still look after the environment. We still look after the people. We do all the right things, but it's just so much easier to operate there.
All right, Murray. We'll wrap it up. But before I do let you go, and thankful for your opinion on what is no doubt a bit of a polarising and perhaps you could say a divisive issue. Before we finish, what does the rest of the year look like for Elevate? What can investors, mums and dads, expect from Elevate going forward?
Before we get there, I'm just going to. There's one thing I wanted to say earlier, Peter. Sorry. We've identified 4 targets, exploration targets at Hirabeb, and they've been identified because previously we thought we were constrained by paleochannels, and when we weren't in paleochannels, we only drill a couple of meters and sometimes maybe 4 meters deep into basement, and we would stop, we'd terminate the hole. Now we're finding out the mineralisation is extending into basement. We're realising that we didn't drill enough in terms of depth and also outside the paleochannel. So we've identified 4 targets that we want to go and follow up at Hirabeb. Now, the exciting thing is they're either 3 kilometres or they're between 3 kilometres and 8 kilometres to the next drill line. So, and bearing in mind we're drilling a 4.5 kilometre long zone at the moment, it's enormous potential for us. But so not just focused on maiden resource at Hirabeb, we've also got an advanced exploration target we're working on, but also these 4 new targets. So what can come out of them, I don't know. To answer your question, what can we look forward to in the short term? Well, we're looking to get an indicated resource in Namibia. So the three key focus we've got is, one is getting our pounds in Namibia to the next confidence level. So getting them to indicated status and enable sort of studies on them. The next one is building a resource base, and we're building that through Hirabeb, Koppies, we're drilling there, we're drilling in a lot of places, and also proving our upgrade process. So the upgrade process we've done at a bench scale, we now want to prove it in a pilot plant. We want to have a pilot plant operating in Namibia on Koppies next year. So short term, indicated resource on Koppies, maiden resource on Hirabeb, and then heading down towards that pilot plant operation next year. So exciting news ahead of us. And if we keep growing the resource in the mineralised envelope at Hirabeb, that's going to get bigger and bigger as well. So a lot of excitement for punters, a lot of excitement for, investors have been sitting around for a while. Uranium price sitting okay, but market's been pushed down. Buying opportunity, Pete. It is a buying opportunity. Good stocks like us.
All right, Murray, thank you. Full steam ahead. We look forward to catching up as the year comes to a close, and by the sounds of it, you'll probably have more exciting news for us and for our listeners as well. So, Murray, Elevate Uranium, thanks very much for joining us on today.
Thanks, Peter.